So in this video, we're going to start off with a little bit of a story, kind of a situation more than a story. We're going to look at people living in a tower. So here's our tower. And we have obviously different levels at which people can live in that tower. And obviously right on the bottom floor, down on his luck, not earning much money, poor little guy right here. He doesn't earn very much money at all. He's pretty poor. And then next up, he's kind of making ends meet. He's not doing great, but he's doing okay. Then we go up another level, and this guy is, oh yeah, he's making a decent wage, just getting by, doing very well for himself, earning a decent amount of money, no problems whatsoever. Then at the top, we got Mr. Moneybags at the top here. He earns lots and lots of money, he can buy whatever he wants. Not necessarily make him happy though, mind you, but for all intents and purposes, what happens is this guy has got a lot of money in this building right here. So this is our analogy that we're going to explore here very shortly. Now what happens is that this guy right here gets a break. He gets a lucky break, and it doesn't happen for everyone, but this guy gets a lucky break. And as a result, he now has moved himself up into the building. He can afford a much higher rent. So he goes up to this level here. And that's really helpful because that means he's now getting more money, he's getting more income, so he's getting lots of money, and that income that's come in is allowing him to live at a much higher level. But obviously, the guy that's there, or the guy that's at the Mr. Moneybags at the top here, he kind of puts his money in some bad stock, all goes pear-shaped, and he loses a lot of money. And what ends up happening is he will lose so much money that he can no longer live at that level. And so he has to move down to the lower levels. And as a result, that money that he's lost money. And so what happens is he can't live at that level anymore. He has to live at this new level. And so this is an analogy that we can use to help us think about energy levels of electrons. How much energy electrons have and how much energy they don't have. Now, in this analogy, the people are the electrons. And the floors are the energy levels. And basically, the same as with and the money, sorry, I'll say what the money is. So the moolah is the energy itself in this example. So in this example, what happened is that this guy gained an amount of money so he could live on a higher floor. Well, if we look at the analogy, he gained some energy, so now he can live on a higher energy level. So that electron can live at a higher energy level and can get there. Now, bear in mind something about this situation is that he isn't going to be able to earn a little bit of money and get there. He has to get the right amount of money, the exact amount of money to allow him to live there. The same as a guy going from here to here would have to get the exact amount of increase in pay to get from there to there. And obviously this electron at the top here, or this person, loses as much money as possible, but still wants to maintain as higher class as he can for the money he has, and so drops down equal amount of money to energy level that we have here. And this is just a nice fun little analogy that we can use to explain what's going on with energy levels and electrons. But let's look at this in a bit more detail. So we now take away the building and we now take away the people and the analogy, and we're just left with our energy levels. And we can have an electron at this point right here. Now, where does that energy come from to allow this electron to jump up there? So in the analogy, it was the money. Well, that energy comes from photons of light. So if we have a photon of light coming in, then what happens is that electron will absorb that photon. And so as a result, it will absorb it, and it will absorb the energy to allow it to jump up an energy level that is exactly equal to the energy that's given. And we can actually now start quantifying this. So let's just say this has an energy of, we'll use some arbitrary values, and we'll study more specific values in lesson. But let's say, for example, this photon has an energy of 2. So this has an energy of 2. This is energy level 0, 1, 2, 3. Well, because this photon provided an energy of 2, that means it was able to jump up to the second level. Well, and it can stay there, which is really, really helpful. So now we've got that electron up at that level right there. But just as what happened with the rich man and he lost his money, what can happen is that electrons can also lose energy and drop down the energy levels. So when an electron drops down the energy level, instead of absorbing the photon like it did here, it gives off a photon of energy. But this time it's got an energy of our arbitrary value of 1. That's not saying that the electron can't drop all the way back down and give off a photon of 2. It can. They can do any number of these changes. They can absorb all the way up there. What's really interesting is that an electron that's at the very, very top here, at level 3, could drop to that level, or to that level. And for each drop, there would be a specific photon of light given off. And that allows us to explain how emission occurs. So this is emission of light. So that's emission. So absorption is electrons jumping up energy levels. Emission is electrons jumping down energy levels. In the next video, we'll go a little bit more complicated because we need to look at this situation in the kind of level of detail that's expected of us at this level. Okay.